Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. William Polonsky. I'm president of the Behavioral Diabetes Institute. I'm also an associate clinical professor in the Department of Medicine here at the University of California at San Diego. And I'm here to talk to you about a recent study that I read that I thought was really interesting. And I'm going to keep it brief, but I wanted to share with you these fascinating results. It comes from a study of people with type 1 diabetes. It was published in the JAMA Network Open journal just very recently, in the past month or two. The authors are Fang and colleagues. And what they reported, well, I think some of the things may not be surprising, but some of the things should be surprising. They certainly were to me. There's really two major findings I want to tell you about. First of all, they accessed a very large database, looking across more than 60 healthcare systems to get data on more than 180,000 people with type 1 diabetes. So that might be maybe 10% of the population with type 1 in this country, maybe. Anyway, a lot of people. It was a huge study. I haven't seen one that big. And they looked at a couple things. One is, how are people really doing in terms of their A1C goals? We know from papers published in the past 5, 10 years that things have been getting better over time, but not that much better. Probably my favorite paper, published by my colleague Jeremy Pettis back in 2019, suggested that amongst people with type 1 diabetes, certainly in the adult population, maybe 20% of folks had an A1C of 7.0% or less, only 20%. 80% weren't there yet. So have things changed? We're now 6 years later after that study. And what they did in this study is they looked back from 2013 and looked at how things have changed and looked back over the past few years. And what you see is, well, steady improvement. Um, the percentage of people, as you can see in the slide in front of you, the percentage of people who have managed to reach an A1C goal of 7.0% has been getting better. Now, this first slide just looks at youth, so anybody under the age of 18, from actually age 2 to age 18. And in this sample, even though things have gotten better, you can see where we are now in the most recent data, which is the square or the bubble on the far right, is about 19% are in that, well, as we like to say, in a safe place with their diabetes. Again, an A1C under 7%. So 19%, long way to go. And in adults, things are better, but well, not as better as we would like to hope. Now, the good news is we're now in the high 20% range, maybe as high as 29% of adults with type 1 diabetes have an A1C less than 7.0%. So again, if you aren't there yet, don't worry, because you're in the vast majority. So things have gotten better. Again, close to 30% now have reached that magical goal of less than 7.0%. But boy, do we have a long way to go. But the bottom line is things are really improving. Things have really gotten better and changed. Now, why have they gotten better, both in youths and in adults? There's probably a whole bunch of reasons, but clearly one of the biggies, and it has to do with the other finding in the study, is with the adoption of diabetes technology. That means pumps, that means CGM, that means hybrid closed loop systems that combine pumps and CGM. And here we see there has been, well, remarkable changes starting back in 2009 when they first looked back at these data in terms of the amount of people on these devices up until these last few years, which you can see is, again, 2021 to 2023. So let's pay attention to just CGM. There's a lot on this slide you're going to be looking at here, but look at just the purple line because that's enough for us for now. If you look at just that purple line on the left, it is the percentage of youths who are now on CGM. And on the right side of your screen, it's the percentage of adults who are on CGM starting back in 2009 all the way up until 2023. And you can see the numbers have come up hugely. Now, before we talk about these actual numbers, I want to tell you what I found most surprising. Now, I guess I live in a type 1 diabetes bubble. I have a lot of colleagues and friends with type 1. I'm very familiar with the latest research. I work with a lot of endocrinologists who have type 1. And if you asked me what's the percentage of people with type 1s who are using CGM, I probably would have said, well, it's got to be 100%, right? I mean, this is by far the most important technology there is. The biggest advance we've seen in care in well, a long time. So I'm disappointed that the percentages aren't as high as I would have expected. But still, we've seen this amazing change in how quickly this technology has been adopted. In youth, it's over 80% are now on CGM, which is incredible. In adults, well, not as much as again as I'd expected. It's about 57%. So again, things have really changed. Things are really better, but 57% in adults with type 1, my Lord, it should be 100%. So what's going on here? And by the way, you can see pump use has climbed somewhat, a lot actually, in youth, not so much in adults. And we're seeing this slow but steady, impressive rise in really, I think the most incredible systems are hybrid closed loop systems. Again, a very dramatic uh, rise in the numbers amongst youths. Again, starting back in 2009 when it was, trust me, zero, up until now where we're talking about, again, above 40%. And amongst adults, again, we're seeing a rise that's slower than that. And now we're at about 20, 22% that these data we think are telling us are probably mostly hybrid closed loop systems. In fact, they really could only extract data that says, does this person have a pump and a CGM? But we presume most of those people now are on some kind of hybrid closed loop system. So again, things are getting better, but really only 23%. I got to tell you, in my population, the people that we see at the Behavioral Diabetes Institute, if you have type 1 diabetes, it's more like 95%. So again, I live in a little bubble. You can see Dexcom from my office. So we're really in the midst of things here, but we really want to see changes. Now, why aren't these numbers greater? Why aren't we seeing 100% CGM use? Well, these data tell us some of that has to do with the type of insurance you have. So, obviously, if you're in commercial insurance rather than Medicaid, for example, you're going to be more likely to be on CGM. Younger people are more likely to be on CGM and on hybrid closed loop systems as well. So, we know these are factors and they count a fair amount, but not everything. What else is going on? I don't know. Does it have to do with physicians not encouraging people to obtain these devices? Is there really a lack of insurance coverage in type 1s? Gee, we're not seeing much of that. Is it people making that choice, saying, well, no, no, I don't think I want to be attached to something 24 hours a day? That may be a big chunk of it. And all I can tell you, if you have type 1 diabetes and you've never used a CGM and you're just getting by, give it a try. If if you try CGM just for a 10-day or 15-day period, you don't have to keep doing it. You won't be addicted, but to at least give it a try and realize the extraordinary benefit of this technology. To fight for getting this covered by your insurance and having one of these devices is critically important. And also not just CGM, but of course, as we're moving all into hybrid closed loop systems as well. Now, these data can't tell us if, in fact, it is the use of technology that accounts for this rise in glycemic benefit, again, where we can see that almost 30% of adults have an A1C less than 7.0%. But odds are pretty good. It's a big, big player. So that's where we are now in 2025. This is the best and the most recent data we've seen. Things are moving in a positive direction. If you aren't doing if you haven't reached that magical goal of 7.0%, though, please recognize that you're fine. And hopefully you're going to get there in a way that fits for you without having any problems with hypoglycemia, because the vast majority of people aren't there yet either. Again, more than 70% of adults, and again, lots and lots of youths as well. So thanks for listening. I hope this will be helpful to you. Hope to see you again.